Hello and welcome to our show, Soul Tie Saturdays. My name is Carla Townsend. I am your host, along with my beautiful co-host, Yvette Thomas.
Hi.
Yes, and
welcome.
Today what we're going to do a tribute in honor of National Women's History Month. Of course, we know that is what March is. We want to celebrate 4 outstanding African American women that had made strides in their lifetime, not just women of the past, but even women in our present.
Yes.
That are just doing their thing and actually being role models for their communities. They're also being humanitarians and also just doing what is necessary so that everybody know that African American women, we have a voice and we have a standing in this global community.
Yes.
So they have done such a good job, and we're going to get right into it. But before we do this, we want you to we want you to share our podcast on today. We want you to subscribe to our pages, Breaking Unrighteous Soul Ties on Facebook. On Instagram, we want you to follow us on Breaking Chains number 9. And then, of course, our YouTube, Soul Tie Saturdays.
Yeah.
So, in start, Yvette, with National Women's History Month. This year, in 2023, what we're doing is theme is celebrating women that tell their stories. Mm-hmm. And we have women that we have selected that have done a lot, and it's telling a story. Mm-hmm. We're going to start with number 1. Yes. And many people, including those in the African American community, do not know Kesmikia Corbett. If you do not know her, she is 37 years old, only 37 years old, but she is a native of North Carolina. She's from Hurdle Mills. I think you're from
up in my neck of the woods near Roxborough, North Carolina, my stomping grounds. Yes.
Yes, she is from Hurdle Mills. Mm-hmm. She went and got her doctorates and everything at UNC, the University of North Carolina.
Go Heels.
But in speaking about Kesmikia Corbett, she played a vital part for not just the United States, but even the global world, when we all were shut down due to a pandemic called COVID-19.
Yeah.
And she is one of the women, or doctors actually, and she was the African American immunologist and virologist that was on staff that actually made the vaccine. So I'm gonna give a little bit of information about her. Please forgive us because it's so much. But Kesmikia, we want to honor and celebrate with you today.
We celebrate you today.
Because the vaccine that you helped create saved millions, billions probably, of lives throughout the world. Because she started testing with Moderna and with the vaccine and everything, using different proteins. And believe it or not, before COVID broke out, she actually was working on the coronavirus vaccine in Sri Lanka. So this was already going on prior to the pandemic coming out. So she is 37 years old, phenomenal. But she was born in Hurdle Mills, North Carolina on January 26th. And she later grew up in Hillsborough, North Carolina with her. She has a large family of siblings and also foster siblings. She graduated from Orange High School in Hillsborough, where she pursued later a bachelor's degree in biological science and sociology from the University of Maryland as a student in the Meyerhoff Scholars Program.
Wow.
And this was in 2000. She was something. In 2008. And of course, her education, again, did not stop there. She did receive her PhD in microbiology and immunology from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And her doctoral work, she also worked in Sri Lanka. And that was where she studied the role of human antibodies in Dunge virus pathogenesis. And I hope I said that right. Okay?
I wouldn't even try.
She specifically focused on the development of novel vaccines for the coronavirus. Her early research considered the development of severe acute respiratory syndrome, which is SARS, and COVID is a form of SARS, and Middle East respiratory syndrome, which is called MERS, vaccine antigens. During this time, she identified a simple way to make coronavirus spike proteins. You know you got to be smart. I'm just saying.
Bless her. The Lord blessed her.
And please, we are here today because of this woman. A lot of us are living today. I mean, we probably, you know, God has everything in control.
Yeah.
But with that vaccine, millions of people are living today because millions of people died around the world.
Yeah.
And this is attributed to her work.
Wow.
In December 2021, Corbett was assigned to Boston's COVID-19 Advisory Committee by Mayor Wu at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. And she started working on a vaccine to protect people from the coronavirus disease. It was similar to, of course, the SARS, and they utilized previous knowledge of optimal coronavirus proteins to tackle COVID-19. Ooh, that's a lot right there. Fast forward, her and her team partnered with Moderna, a biotechnology company, to manufacture and test the COVID-19 vaccine. And she also worked with Anthony Fauci, and he stated that Corbett's work has been central to the development of the Moderna mRNA vaccine and the Eli Lilly therapeutic monoclonal antibody that were first to enter clinical trials in the U.S., and that her work will have a substantial impact on ending the worst respiratory disease pandemic in more than 100 years.
Wow.
We want to celebrate you,
Yes.
Miss Kesmikia Corbett. Hopefully I'm saying your name right, but she is a phenomenal woman.
Yeah.
And we celebrate your humanitarian efforts that you have done so wonderfully with your work across the globe. Not just the United States, not just North Carolina, but this is global.
Global.
We thank you and we celebrate you today.
Salute you today. It's amazing at such a young age to have that type of impact on the world.
Yes.
It is amazing. And I'm sure that, you know, in hearing her story, we probably are just glossing over, because I'm sure that as a young African-American woman, she has not been without, you know, struggle to get where she is. But our hat's off to you,
Yes.
Ms. Corbett, and we thank you for your efforts, efforts to help society at large.
Yes, definitely. Now we're going to talk about Miss Cicely Tyson.
Cicely Tyson. And Cicely Tyson, I picked her because I have a memory as a child when I was in elementary school, seeing Cicely Tyson in the movie, the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman.
Oh, yes.
Loved her in that movie. And so that's why it was interesting for me to go back and try and do some research on her. She was born Cicely Louise Tyson in 1924. Can you imagine? 1924. This was pre-civil rights movement, right?
Yes.
She was born in the Bronx, New York, and she was a daughter of immigrants from the West Indies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, her parents were from the West Indies, and they were they came over, and he was registered at Ellis Island, so that's how he came into the United States. And he was a carpenter, and her mom was a domestic worker. She grew up in a religious home, so much so that when Cicely decided to become an actress, her mom didn't speak to her for 2 years
Oh, wow.
because she thought that acting and that profession was sinful.
Well, that's what they thought back then.
Well, but Cicely went on, of course. Her mom changed her mind. It took 2 years, but her mom changed her mind. And after she saw her perform, she was that good. And not only was she an actress, but before she was discovered as an actress, she was discovered by a photographer for Ebony magazine, and she was a highly successful model, high fashion model. But if you can picture her face, yeah, I could see that. She was a beautiful black woman, right? And so she went on to her first film that she received awards for was Sounder. And I remember seeing that movie, but I don't remember her in that movie. She played Rebecca Morgan in that movie, but she was nominated for an Academy Award and a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in that movie Sounder. Yeah, she was good. So in 1974 was when the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman was, and she played. It was on TV, right. And she played the role of Miss Jane Pittman, and she also won awards for that movie as well. It was like everything she did, everything she touched.
It was excellent.
It was excellent. She played also, you'll remember that she was in the movie series, the series that came on TV, Roots.
Oh, yeah.
She played the role there, and that was in 1977. It was Benta. I can't remember. I remember her in the series, but I don't remember the character, where she received a...
I remember the character.
You remember the character?
I remember it.
She received an Emmy Award. She was nominated for an Emmy Award for that role. And the list goes on and on and on. She received the NAACP Image Award for her character as Marva Collins in the film The Marva Collins Story. She has received many accolades as an actress. And what I found was so interesting about her was the fact that, you know, even in the years prior to the civil rights movement, she was friends with, she rode in high place with named people. She was friends with Martin Luther King and what's the other one? Malcolm X. But as she did a lot of great work, not only in Hollywood, but she also was on Broadway, and she won a Tony Award for the Best Actress in a Play for her performance as Miss Carrie Watts in The Trip to Bountiful. I mean, it was like everything she did, it was great. She was a great actress, and but I found out some personal things about Miss Tyson as well. Okay. One thing about this lady, she was famous. She was in the spotlight, world-renowned actress, but she knew how to keep a secret. When she published her memoir, right before she passed away, the title of it is Just As I Am. She disclosed that she has a daughter. And the only reference to her daughter is they call her Joan. That's not her daughter's name. They just call her Joan. And even she did an interview with Gayle King, and she talked about her daughter and how she, her being who she was, she struggled to keep a close relationship with her daughter because she said her biggest regret was that her daughter had to share her with the world. But she did all that she could to keep her daughter she did a good job too, to keep her daughter out of the spotlight. So like, try as I might, I could not find her name. I could not find anything. Only thing is the reference to her in her memoir that talks about, and she refers to her as Joan. And I think that is powerful. in the fact that you can be, we see celebrities nowadays, and, a lot of times there's the paparazzi and everything. They do all they can to capture every moment, every private moment, their children, everything. Everything is up for grabs. But she was able to keep her daughter, her identity a secret. And now, of course, Cicely has passed away, and even in the reports of her funeral does not mention, it mentions the celebrity. People like Tyler Perry was there. She was godparent. She was a godmother to somebody famous. I can't remember. But there were celebrities there at her funeral, but it doesn't mention her child, her daughter. But it does say that, of course, we believe that her daughter was there. We just don't know who she was. That is amazing to me. Mm-hmm. That in itself, everything that she did and everything that she accomplished, every award that she received, and then to be able to go back and say, I protected my daughter and kept her from the limelight because out of respect for her and out of love for her, mm-hmm. and being able to maintain that relationship with her daughter all those years, mm-hmm. is amazing. Is an amazing feat in itself. And the thing that she told Gail, and when Gail asked her to kind of sum up what, she wanted to sum up her life, she said this: "I did the best I could." Mm. So even in all her stardom and fame, it just comes out she was an humble woman to me. I didn't know her personally, but it just seems like she was an humble woman because she, I just named a few of the things that she's done. She was all the way up into 2020, she was still working.
And it's something that you said as far as all of her awards and accolades that she did in being an actress. Notice this woman, I think when she died, she was like 96 years old. Mm-hmm. When she came up, she was coming up through an era that, it was hard for black actors and actresses. Yeah. And dare I might say, the little I do know about Cicely Tyson, the reason why Tyler Perry even referenced to her, mm-hmm. like a grandmother figure. Yes. And he said as long as she lives, he was going to take care of her, because the simple fact, even though she was a phenomenal actress, they didn't pay her hardly anything. Yeah. She didn't have much to live on. Yeah. And she did things in the industry, like she was a lot of first, mm-hmm. in the mm-hmm. as an actress. She did, and the list of films and TV shows that she was in it goes on and on. And one of the things that in her last interview, she talked about the fact that early on in her career, of course, she had to take jobs that, because of her color and because of race, it was, you wanted to take every job. But later on in her career, she was very selective of what she chose to do, because she would not take a role that was demeaning to our culture. And I thought that said a lot too, because as you said, she was not compensated like others were compensated, but she refused to take roles that would demean our culture as an African-American woman. And that speaks a lot for her. And some other facts about her that I learned: she was an honorary member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She was a vegetarian. That's why she lived so long and was so beautiful all her life. Woo! I ain't there. But check this. She was a first cousin of Louis Farrakhan. He was her first cousin. But think about it. It makes sense. Her family was from the West Indies. West Indies, yeah. She was the godmother to the singer Lenny Kravitz. And
to Denzel Washington's daughter, Carla, and Katia, and Tyler Perry's son, Amon.
All right.
But it's like she's a godmother to us. I grew up looking at her, and I just remember her. It just made a really an impression on me because she wasn't a light-skinned woman. She was a dark-skinned, beautiful, dark-skinned black woman, and and she accomplished a lot. And she received the awards from Barack Obama, and she also received an award from was it Bill Clinton?
I'm not sure, but I think so.
But we celebrate her. I celebrate her because to see her, as a child, seeing her star in the movie and then in Roots and the different things that she played in, that was when we weren't seeing a lot of black people in TV or in film. And that it made an impression. I'm sure it made an impression on me, and it made an impression on others as well. And it appeared that she didn't let her craft take over, if that makes sense. Because even up until the end, when the quote that I did the best that I could.
That says a lot in and of itself.
Yeah.
I did the best that I could, and she kept and remained with her integrity. And she's a woman of resilience.
Yes.
To come up in that era and be an awesome actress that she was. Because literally, I can't even imagine. Because I'm pretty sure, even with the directors and everything, they were not probably as friendly as those that may be today. Because we're talking about racism, and again, she was born long before
1924.
Long before civil rights, segregation, and all of that. So, I mean, she had a lot to overcome just to make her voice heard and to allow people to see the true identity of an African American woman. And in saying that, we're going to bring you up to today. And she is one of my favorite actresses. And telling her story, Angela Bassett.
Yes. Yay, Angela.
I love Angela. I know you know Angela from most people are not just what Love got to do with it, but how Stella got her groove back. Stella. Woo, she gave some hope to a lot of us in that movie. Oh, yes, how Stella got her groove back. But Angela Bassett was born in August 1958. She is an African-American actress known for her work in film and television, and she's been doing it since the late 1980s. She received many accolades, including 2 Golden Globe Awards, in addition to nominations for 2 Academy Awards and 7 Primetime Emmy Awards. And she is the first African-American woman to be nominated for an Oscar for Black Panther, which, and when I say first African-American woman, because that was a Marvel film. Black Panther was. It was a Marvel film, so she's the first African-American woman ever to be nominated for an Oscar for a Marvel film. That's a lot.
Yes.
Also, we know her, my favorite show, 911.
Yes.
I will not miss 911.
She's still doing it.
She's still doing her thing. And not only does she is an actress in that TV series, she's also the executive producer of that one and the other 911 that comes on as well. So she's doing her thing. And I already told you about one of her films, how Stella got a groove back. She was also in Waiting to Excel with Whitney Houston.
Yes.
What's Love Got to Do?
I love her in Waiting to Exhale.
Yes. What Love Got to Do with It.
Just like her.
And her most recent was, of course, not just 911, but she was in Black Panther and also Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So, Bassett was, and speaking about Cicely Tyson, as her time went on, she was very particular about choosing the roles. Angela always was. She would not take any roles that would demean her or the identity of an African American woman. She would turn them down. That says a lot about her character and how she wanted us to be portrayed. Because a lot of films, we see a lot of African American women. They are
being exploited.
They're being exploited. They're prostitutes. And then later they, come out. But why do we have to be like that? Because that is not who we are. And it actually sends a bad sense to our younger, our little girls that are coming up. Because that is not who we are. So she always was particular on what role she took. And she has turned down many roles because of that very fact. She said, and I quote, "This is a career about images. I am a Black woman in America. My people were slaves in America. And even though we are free on paper and in law, not going to allow you to enslave me."
Well,
on film.
Okay. All right.
That was her quote. I quote. End quote. In December 2022, Bassett was named as part of the Hollywood Reporter's Woman in Entertainment Power. Ryan Coogler. Now, Ryan is a very young filmmaker. And if you do not know who he is actually the filmmaker of Black Panther. He gave a tribute of his own to Miss Bassett, and he said, "Science tells us that life started on the continent of Africa. I like to think that we are started through a Black woman, which means that all the dynamics of what we are as humans had to exist in Black women. Our strengths, our weaknesses, our nightmares. And so often, this particular group of humanity has been flattened on the screen, in the median. So what I was seeing in Angela's performances, even as a child, because he is so much younger than she was, because I think she's 64 and he's like in his 30s or something, was the truth breaking through a lie. That's what he said about her. That the way she was performing, she broke all of what people thought about Black women. It was a lie. What they perceived who we are. She did the exact opposite and brought truth to light. That's a lot to be said.
Yes.
So, Angela Bassett, I'm not going to say a whole lot because you got a lot going on still. You're about to do a new movie as well.
Yeah.
So, we celebrate you this month for being a voice for women, African American women. And I dare say she also is a role model for a lot of women, not just
Absolutely.
Our race. And these women, they affected not just our race, but other races as well. So we want to definitely embrace them because they're within our culture. They're representing us, and we are so proud to do this. So, and last but not least.
Oh, wow.
Bring it home.
So, our next person that we wanted to honor today is none other than Maya Angelou.
Yes.
Maya was born Margaret Ann Johnson in April of 1928 in St. Louis, Missouri. She was mostly raised by her paternal grandmother in Stamps, Arkansas. And she had a brother whose name was Bailey. And Bailey was the one who gave Maya her nickname because he would be saying, "my sister,"
Oh,
So and he was little, so it just ended up being Maya. So that's how she got the name Maya. Maya was not without her share of struggles. At age 7, she was living briefly with her mom and was raped by her mother's boyfriend. The boyfriend was arrested and upon release was killed. And Maya blamed herself for the man's death because she had told on him and testified about the rape. And she was so traumatized by that, she became mute and didn't speak for 6 years. Despite her childhood trauma, Maya loved to write. She loved the English language, and she wrote poetry and field journals. During the time that she wasn't speaking, she was writing. She was writing. She was still speaking, right? Maya was not only a writer, but she was also a performer. When she got older, she spent time performing as a calypso singer and a dancer. In the 1950s, she traveled the world and did recordings as a calypso singer and dancer. That's something I didn't know. I didn't know that. Yeah, very talented woman. The Angelo part of Maya's name was adopted from her former husband, Tosh Angelos. And so she adopted that to be Maya Angelou. Someone had asked her to change her name. She was going as Margaret. Somebody asked her to change her name when she was performing. And so she changed it to Maya Angelou at that time. Maya had one child. She had a son named Clyde Bailey, and they call him Guy Johnson. He passed away in 2022, February 2022. One of the things that her son said about her was that Maya Angelou was a troublemaker. And he said that with great respect and love because she always stood up and fought for what was a perceived wrong, especially as an African-American woman in the United States of America. She would often stand up for someone when she perceived that they were being treated unfairly. Maya was a part of the civil rights movement. She actually, before his untimely death, they were planning to do a rally with Martin Luther King Jr., but before they could get that done, he was killed. So she was not only a writer, not only a performer, a great actress, performer, and singer, but she also was an activist as well. Clyde said that her family called her a troublemaker because she had a mouth. She would stand up. She stood up for people. And she would not allow someone to silence her when she was around and felt like somebody was being treated unfairly. She wouldn't be silent. And I thought that was so amazing. Maya, she had many accomplishments, many accomplishments. But I believe that she would be best remembered by her book that she wrote, the autobiographical book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I remember reading that book in school, but when that book was first published, because of the sexual abuse that it talked about and the trauma, the traumatic events that it discussed, they wanted to ban it from schools when it was initially published, but they didn't. They didn't, because it actually gave people who were in similar situations, who were victims of abuse, an opportunity to have their voices heard. Right. I read in my research, I read that when she was writing that book, she isolated herself from everyone because she wanted to be the book to be an authentic representation of what happened to her. So they call her a memorist because that was her first autobiographical book. She wrote 7. She wrote 7 books about her life. And she was very candid she didn't hold anything back when she was talking about her story. Like, you know how we can talk, when we talk about ourselves, we want to try to sugarcoat or we want to try to skate over things. She did not do that. She put it all in there, the good, the bad, and the indifferent. She wanted people to know her true experience. And so I thought that was amazing, because a lot of times, like I said, we want to sugarcoat and we want to gloss over things that we've experienced or things that we've done wrong, you know. But she didn't do that. She put it all out there. She put it in seven books that were about her life, specifically about her life. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings was also turned into a television show. And it was, she along with someone else wrote the screenplay for it as well. When the book went, but, it is believed that in her sharing that story, that a lot of people were helped, because it gave people who were in an abusive situation a voice. Maya was she was a strong woman. She was a strong woman. The strength that Maya embodied as she struggled to come to terms with what she went through was all poured out into that book. And she wrote many. Maya also, of course, is known for her poetry and her spoken word. She received awards for. It's amazing how someone can have such a command of the English language that that is so powerful just to hear them speak. And that's who she was. People wanted to hear what Maya Angelou had to say. And it's amazing, because some of the things that we hear ourselves saying are actually quotes that came from her. One of them, which I thought was amazing, is that when she said, you do what's right, do what you know is right. And when you learn better, you do better. That was Maya Angelou. And then another one was, when people show you who they really are, believe them the first time. I was like, Maya was a bad woman. She was. I felt kind of convicted because I ain't know Maya like that. But for real, just having, she was a writer, she was a poet, she was an activist. She lived her life to the fullest. And that was one of the things that she said as well. If you spend your time trying to be normal, then you won't ever know how great you are.
Come on now.
Jesus, come on then. I'm just saying.
Come on, Maya. Help the people in the back.
And of course, the list of books that she wrote. I mean, I had a sheet. It's like books and essays and poems that she wrote that impacted lives, because they were written to empower.
Yes.
Everything that she wrote, I believe, was intentionally written to empower a people. Not just African American people, but people in general, And she received in 2020, she was awarded the National Medal of Art by President Bill Clinton. In 2000. In 2000, and then she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama. She received many awards and many accolades, but her command of the English language and her way with words and how to speak to people in a way that would encourage and inspire. I was inspired just by reading her story, because her story was not without some turmoil. Her story was not without some trauma. And I see how she was able to write the poem and still I rise, because that's exactly what she did. and still, I mean, I can hear her voice and say, and still I rise. You can beat me down. Life can beat you down, but and still I rise. So I celebrate her. We celebrate her today.
Yes.
And I know one of the poems that she's widely known for, and people can probably recite it, and that is Phenomenal Woman. Maya Angelou, Cicely Tyson, Angela Bassett, and Kizzmekia Corbett all are phenomenal women. They're phenomenal African American women, but most of all, they are phenomenal women. And we're going to close our podcast today with a reading of the poem, Phenomenal Woman.
In her voice.
Many people wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. When I try to show them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally. I walk into a room just as cool as you please, and to a man the fellows stand or fall down on their knees. And then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say, oh, it's the fire in my eyes, the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist, the joy in my feet. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I say, oh, it's in the arch of my back. And now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk too loud. When you see me walking, it ought to make you proud. I say it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palm of my hands, the need for my care, because I'm a woman, phenomenally. Phenomenal woman. That's my mother and all your mothers. And then my grandmothers and all your grandmothers and my great-grandmothers and your great-grandmothers, my great-great-great and your great-great-great and all